Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. So I want to continue our conversation about the concept of certainty. And there is a reason behind it. And some of it is personal to my own experience. And I know it's also as a coach and a spiritual teacher, I know this to be true of your lives as well. The idea of connecting to the absolute certainty of God is extremely intriguing for multiple reasons. I'm going to put in the symbol for certainty, and I'm going to read some of the passage from the book on the Kabbalah. Today, I'm going to read from a book called The Power of Kabbalah. It's the first book, it's by Yehuda Berg, the same guy who wrote The 72 Divine Name. And this book, there's some passages in there that I want to mention, okay? And keep in mind, before I even bring the three letters that are connected to the passage, I just want to keep in mind how the passage is derived. In the book of Exodus, the passage that refers to the crossing or the passage of the Red Sea, the first verse of that passage in Hebrew, they take all of the letters that are in there and they reorganize them, and it yields, recombining all the letters, 72 combination of three letters named. And when that is created, each of the name represent a divine name of God. And absolute certainty is one of the characteristics. There is courage. There is one for mercy. Let me read from the book for a second so that I cover most of the thing. There is one to arouse the healing power. There is one to remove negative forces from people and places. There is one to generate financial substance. There is one to remove and eradicate the force of death. What they mean by that, it's not just physical death, but there is death, emotional death. There is all kinds of death that happens. And it's that the death, the energy of death is ushered in by Archangel Samael. And that archangel is the archangel that Moses, for the last plague, that God sent to kill the firstborn of everyone in Egypt. So there's all kinds of things in there. There's to return the seed of our existence. There are all kinds of symbols in there, and all of them are aspects of God. When you, according to the Zohar, the inner teaching that Simon Bar Yochai had brought, the commentary that he made in the first 5 books, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, the 23 volumes. In that volume, they talk about the fact that everything in Hebrew, every letter has a numerical value. And if you add all of the letter of any book in the first 5 books of the Torah, you add all of them in Hebrew, and then it gives you a number. That numerical value equals a word, and that word becomes a theme for the entire chapter that you're about to read. So everything in the Bible is a code for deep, mystical, and occult secrets. Okay? So I want to mention that, and I want to give you that inner teaching before we move into the next piece. Now, I'm going to share with you my screen to show you the symbol that I had sent to you of the absolute certainty. Now, the way you're supposed to look at this when you have it is to look at it from right to left. Although the words are, the letters are ayin, if you go from right to left, it's ayin, it's resh, and it's yod. you cannot look at that from left to right. It would be, because the way we read is from left to right. It would be, if you look at it from left to right, you're doing it wrong. It's like if you were to read the word God and then you read it from right to left and it becomes dog. You're reading something else. Okay? So it has to be from right to left. When you're scanning it, when you're staring at it, you stare it from right to left. And as you do this, because Hebrew, as one of the 5 sacred languages, is actually wired into our DNA respond to it, it will bypass the doubt and the fears, the insecurity that may exist even when you claim that you have faith. Okay? All of us have faith, and we're church-going people, we're religious, or were religious at some point. That faith can be infected by doubt. This will remove all doubt about everything. And I don't know about you, given the state of consciousness that I find myself to be in every once in a while or more in the past 4 years, I could use some certainty. Okay? So I want to read from the book the description or the explanation of what they mean about certainty. And this is what the author says. There is only one way to render all tools and principles of Kabbalah inoperative and worthless, and it is called uncertainty. If we are doubtful or uncertain about any aspect of Kabbalistic teaching, we literally pull the plug and shut them down. I'll believe it when I see it must be replaced by when I believe it, then I will see it. In life, certainty is not about receiving what we want. Rather, certainty means recognizing that we are receiving what we need for spiritual growth. When we face situations that ignite our doubt and uncertainties, these letters will awaken certainty, conviction, and trust. Nowhere did he say faith, okay? And it's not that faith is a bad word, it's just that faith is insufficient to describe the state that this is. It is something that's over the top. It's faith cubed, okay, or to the 10th power. Because what actually happened once you stare, what I'm doing right now, and what I'm going to recommend for all of you to do, is to gaze, because it's an eye contact. What happened is that I've been gazing at this for more than 14 days now on a daily basis. What happened is that over the period, I now remember all the letters in my head, and I can see the image with eyes open. I can see them. But that's not the way for you to call it. You still have to scan it with your eyes. You have to gaze it. You still have to go from right to left and gaze at it and keep gazing. I do this for 5-10 minutes twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. Now, some of you, while you're doing this, may feel slightly dizzy, or like you're waving, you're going in and out, or you may end up feeling, what's the word? Feeling like you pass out. All of a sudden, you go into a blank. You don't go into a blank. What actually happens is that you enter the white space, the actual uncreated, the core, you enter the throne room of God. And when you get into that space initially, because we are singularity of expression of God, as a unique singularity called Pierre, called Kate, called Marjorie, called Esther, called Bobby, etc., we cannot initially understand a state of being that exists as a quantum field of endless possibilities. We can't comprehend it, and when we enter into it, our consciousness shuts down and we pass out. We seem to go into a blank. But with training and continually going into that space, you're going to get to a point where you will remain cognizant and self-aware when you go into it. The reason I want to mention this, the way the author Yehuda Berg talks about this certainty, by saying that the way to render all the other 71 divine names inoperative is to be uncertain. In other words, certainty is the key that you must hold for all the other characteristics and divine name to operate. Because when Esther had asked last week whether certainty, and what's the difference between faith and certainty, that was a great question. Faith can wane, faith can be tested. The absolute certainty cannot be tested because it is the absolute truth and law of the universe and of God. There is no test for it. You bypass all the tests. So when you're connected, having done this on a daily basis, twice a day or more, depending on if you're in a time of crisis, you may want to do it for longer or for more. Having done all of this, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be in such a state, the best way I can describe it, you feel directly connected to it's not ego-centered. You are connected to power, not force. Because force is something you try to shove somebody's head and you try to dominate them. But you're connected in all things to a understanding, a transcendental understanding on how the universe really works. And it gives you not only rest and comfort, but it makes you understand the power of the certainty. Because at a blank, you know manifestation will take place. Because you're in that quantum field, that endless field of perpetual renewal and miraculous expression. So what I'm trying to say to you is that as I do this over the number, almost a month now that I've been doing this, there are moments, for example, this afternoon, when I was in that state of connecting to rest. Though I'm trying to find a way to describe something that's not describable by words, and I have to use an analogy to describe it, which is that I sat and as I was in that state, I felt like I had the certainty of God or a God. And it was not ego, it was simply knowing that everything is gonna be all right. As they say in the Caribbean, cool breeze, cool breeze. Everything is gonna be all right. And there is no reason for me to fear. And it's a great departure from the doubts and the incessant fear that the adversary has been bombarding all of us with for the past 4 years, of constantly being convinced it's this way, and then minutes later that way, to intend and unintend 3 to 5 times per minute, to believe in this and unbelieve it, to believe in this to unbelieve, to be certain and to be uncertain. That when you use these letters, you remain parked in certainty. You don't flicker, your consciousness does not flicker and go back and forth and doubting. Now it didn't because of the depth of challenges I was presented with, it didn't happen to me on the first use or the first go. It took several days to a week and a half before I began to feel that deep rest in absolute certainty. And I have to tell you that rest in absolute certainty is a state that's familiar to me, because in the past, meaning going back maybe 6 years, 7, 8 years, when my students were in crisis and they asked me to help them, and I was able to perform what may have appeared a miracle to other people, that's the connection and the rest that I was in. Now, because of the time we're living in, where the adversary is deliberately shaking everyone on earth at our core to really test us, for the past few years, I and everyone on the planet have been challenged. And I lost touch with that particular state of, for me, I didn't call it certainty, I called it clarity, because that's what he gave to me. I was extremely clear about everything I was doing. I knew when to do it, when to withhold, when to move forward. And when I do my coaching, that's one of the gifts that I have as well. The gift of the gift of listening and the gift of clarity. So what I'm saying is that we are being presented now with the gift of, at least I know I am, I'm being presented with the gift, with that, the use of those three symbols, or the three Hebrew letters, Ayin, Resh, and Yod. I'm being now presented with the opportunity to reconnect to that field, to that blessed field. And to not only reconnect, but to exist for hours at a time in the certainty of God, where there is a singularity of knowing. Any questions, any comments?
I do have a question, Pierre. What is the certainty of, whenever you gaze at these letters, the certainty of God about any particular subject, or is it just the certainty of connection that we're focused on?
You can always bring a plea or a request, like the children, the Israelites that were at the edge of the Dead Sea. But right now, I don't want to be in fear anymore. And I'm going to use it in as much as possible to have, because the tests are only beginning. Things are going to get really rocky in 2024, 2025, 2026, 2028. By 2028, there's going to be another pandemic. It's going to get really rocky. So we need to, what's the word? We need to be prepared and ready. And the certainty help create a Midas touch, where whatever test that's going around you, you stand fast in certainty. Now, if you have a challenge, you can create certainty to help you overcome a false belief and remove a doubt, so that you can get into find passage into another belief system. But as it stands right now, the certainty that I felt, like, say, for example, the past couple of days or even today, is that everything in my life that I had split consciousness about, it's this or the other. Am I doing it right? Is it okay? Should I do it this way? Is it left? Is it right? All of that went away. And I am at rest that everything is going to be all right. Because I am now supported by the one and only power and law that controls everything.
So then you have this in your intention, in your mind, when you scan these letters. every time? Or is it an openness of just connection when you scan?
You know, Janice, I'll be honest with you. I do have some issues that are personal to me that I would love to be resolved. And at time when I'm scanning, I have them in mind. But
Okay.
most of the time, I don't.
Oh.
I just scanned it so that I will be in certainty. Because I am tired of being scared, of being spooked about everything.
Yes.
And if you're spooked about everything, you're highly, you become easy to manipulate by the adversary.
Vulnerable, yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So if I'm in certainty, then the adversary has no room to enter.
But could one then just have the intention of certainty for your highest and greatest good, and that covers all the basis of what you're dealing with now, what you may deal with tomorrow and in the years ahead with the other pandemics or whatever.
Correct. Unless you're having an acute crisis. If you're having an acute crisis, have certainty related directly to that. And I'm going to say something to you. I've asked the people in my morning class this. We need to walk in lockstep. And I'm going to use the example. I'm not going to go into all the details, but because I've explained it in the last few classes multiple times. When Moses realized that God had asked him to step into the water, into the Red Sea, he knew that that was the symbol that he was supposed to be using. And during the night, it was not just his certainty that split the waters. He put everybody in certainty, 3 million people, and in lockstep together. By staring, by them having them gaze for hours at the symbol. Many of them were mixed multitude. They didn't read Hebrew. They didn't know what the symbol represented, because you don't need to understand it, because it relates to your DNA and it will trigger the reaction that's needed automatically. We, as the herald and the 144,000 that are supposed to help humanity during the passage into the new earth, between now and 2030, before the galactic earthquake crossing, we need to walk like the 2 million Israelite. We need to walk in lockstep together. Because in the morning, when Makshoni, this young man, began to walk in the water, he kept on walking in complete and trance certainty. He didn't know what was going to happen, but he knew he would never drown. Because he was completely in that confidence of God. And he kept on walking and going deeper and deeper. And when the water got into his nostril, every body of water on earth split in half, and the column of water went all the way to the sky. The laws of physics that operate water and liquid on earth were rearranged temporarily to allow this miracle to happen. It wasn't just Moses' certainty, nor him extending his staff. It was none of this. In fact, I was reading the text again today, and thank you, Yehudaberg, for reminding me. When Moses contacted God, God said to him, why are you contacting me? Meaning, you have the means to create the miracle yourself. Don't talk to me. You know what to do. And Moses understood the reply. So if we do it together, we're gonna, like morning and night, we're gonna create collectively as a community, as a family, as a tribe, we're gonna create a force that is so powerful that the adversary cannot touch, and none of them will be touched. None of us will be touched. We will be unscathed by all of the craziness that are going to be going on around the world. Nothing will touch us. Any questions in the comments? Now, the other thing I want to talk about, and it's related to the certainty, because I know what that state is like because I'm going back into it again, and I remember when and I used to enter that state by just doing the torsion field. This is like going 6-7 years ago. I used to do just the torsion field, and the moment I created, I was in that state. I was already there. And if somebody calls me or with a crisis, a student, at the after I've created this, I was able to guide them and ask the quantum field I was connected to in certainty for the manifestation of a rearrangement of natural law for them, either by creating healing, because the key to all of the other divine names is certainty. And the divine names are 72 gifts and powers, not force, higher virtues. Because there's force in mercy, there is force there's power in mercy, there's power in courage, there's power in all of the things that I mentioned before. There's a difference between force and power. Force is military, it's shooting, it's destroying, it's destructive. Power is not destructive. So the key is that when I was in that state, I could ask, because the person is requesting for a transfer for that blessed field, that quantum field, that infinity times infinity, what I call the blessed world, to manifest a miracle for that person. And literally, within moments, sometimes less than 2 or 3 minutes, the miracle would manifest. That's the state I was in. I'm going to go further. I actually believe that a lot of the saints, including Jesus and all the patriarchs of the Bible and all of other religions, who are able to bestow people with miracles, that's the state that they're in. When they can remove your karma and remove your fear and remove disease and all that stuff, that's the state that they're in. Because I saw a year ago a very bad movie, and I got reminded of it today when I went to the waterfront to meditate. I saw a very bad movie on Amazon Prime. I forgot even what it's called, but one of the things that happened there, it was about an alien encounter, an alien being that were living as human being on Earth, and a human being that fell in love with one of the alien, and the alien with them, and then a discovery from the alien and this human scientist and researcher on how to space travel, and to space travel faster than time, than light speed. And it was postulated as such, that if you are in location A and you're trying to get to location B, no matter what B is like or how far it is in the universe, it's not a wormhole you need to create to travel through. You just have to think in certainty of where you are and think in certainty of the space characteristic and coordinate of the destination place. And when you think of it in total certainty, in a snap, you're there. Because space doesn't exist. And the navigation to go from one place to another is consciousness. One of the commentaries shown by Oval talked about the passage in the Red Sea. He said exactly the same thing. He said after the water was split, the fact that every body of water on earth separated temporarily, he said it's because consciousness, when you are in certainty, creates physical law. And since consciousness is endless on the blessed field and there's endless possibilities, you can create an endless number of outcomes. So when a spiritual teacher or a holy person or a great avatar creates a miracle for you, all they have to do is from where they are and the situation they're in, they have to think of what you're desiring. What does it look like from a place of absolute certainty? And when they look at it and they understand it, they bring it into the space where they're trying to bring the gift and the ground it. And the moment that happened, the miracle gets created. Are you getting my drift? Or are you guys understanding what I'm trying to say? Or is it too abstract? Or should I go deeper?
I vote deeper.
Okay. It literally is like blinking your eyes. Because when you're in that state of certainty, it feels like you are so connected to God and to the blessed field and to all the laws that operate in the universe, that whatever law that we have in the 3D, it's nothing more than a fragment and a tiny vessel in a vast infinite field of endless possibilities. And so if you need to move, and this is why scientists cannot explain a lot of the UFOs, they're saying one moment it's right in front of us, the next moment it bleep and it goes 600 feet up in the air. Or it just plummet, it just disappears, it moves erratically because the consciousness of the pilot is moving it because they're in certainty. And all they have to do is to think of the coordinate and it's the desire and the intention of going to the other location. This is what's driving it. So the desire and the intention that you have to create a health miracle for yourself, the desire that you have to create abundance for yourself, the desire that you have to help somebody remove the pain and the suffering that someone is in, the desire that you have to, in the case of Master Jesus, to multiply the bread, the desire you have to change water into wine, the desire that you have, that intention, when you're in that state of certainty, that's all that is needed, as long as you're in that state. Because when you're in that state, you're connected to your grace. When you're in certainty, you're connected to divine grace. we at some point prior to our own fall, we were in that grace. To be in certainty, in absolute certainty, is to be in grace. And with that grace, anything can happen. This is why I'm saying it's power, because when I connected to it, I was reminded, because I could feel it energetically, a feel of endless possibilities where anything can happen. That's what I'm tapping into. I spent 2.5 hours this afternoon connected to that field. I didn't intend anything, but I was reacquainting myself to it. Plato said it well when he said, knowledge is remembering. It's a state of grace.
Can I just ask kind of, well, make a statement or ask a question? It seems two things very important that we monitor our thoughts. If we can come into that state of grace where our thoughts manifest, then it behooves us to be watchful of what we are thinking that could then manifest. And number two, as we think about overruling the laws of the 3D world in this connection to this blessed field, I wonder if there is a correlation between the wave and the particle on observation, that it takes for the particle to be created, and if that observation, it's not really requiring certainty, is it? It's just the act of observing. Maybe it doesn't correlate.
It does correlate beautifully, actually. Both things you're saying are true. First of all, the first part is that the intent, okay, this is why I keep telling you the spiritual diet that you consume, the mass media. What videos are you watching? Are you watching all of this stuff about the death and that's happening in Palestine? Or are you getting yourself energetically entangled, emotionally reactive to this so-called inequities? If you're doing this, you cannot remain in that state.
Right.
Because it will separate you.
Yes.
You could temporarily touch it, but you cannot remain in it. Okay? So what kind of spiritual diet are you feeding yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You have to make sure that you're reading things that are elevating you, watching things that are keeping you in a higher consciousness. Stop watching every little detail on Facebook or on Instagram and all of this mass media thing, stupid things that means nothing, but that will actually disconnect you. Just because somebody posted it, you don't have to watch it. Because your phone goes bleep and you have to automatically run to it to look at it. You're wasting your time and you're poisoning your consciousness. You're greater than that. It's the dog that sees the squirrel. Squirrel, squirrel, and you're running after the squirrel. So your mental, it's mental mastery. That's the first thing. The other thing as well, you're talking about the double slit experiment of the wave and the particle and the idea of the observer manifesting and creating. But that's exactly what it is. But it's taking now into a quantum field in a much more, in a deeper level. Because what are you doing when you're scanning the letter? You're looking as an observer. I told you you cannot bring it into your mind. You have to look at it.
Oh, that's right. So, it does relate.
Of course. You have to scan it. It's an eye contact.
Okay, I was thinking of the consciousness of thought, and that didn't relate, but this does. Scanning the Hebrew letters.
You have to scan it in order for it to be triggered.
Yes. Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And the moment it's triggered and you enter into that space, then you enter into a different realm. And let me just say this: you're not commending the laws of nature. Let me rephrase that. It's misleading to think that you have that kind of power. Makshoni and the children of Israel did not know that the water was going to separate. They did not come in. For all Makshoni knew, because he was in certainty, God could have given him the ability to breathe underwater and to travel like a fish to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is not, you don't command it. The blessed feel, because of your intention and your desire, the blessed feel will create the appropriate change that's needed.
So your job is to establish the goal.
Yes.
And God's job to determine how.
God will figure it out.
Yes.
Blessed feel will figure it out.
Yes. And you have some action to take in that field. You don't just sit on a rock and wait for.
Right. Well, you create the intention. In this instance, Makshoni began to move into the mortar.
Right, exactly. So there is something that you need to do. Yes.
Yes, you're going to be guided, do this, do that, and then you move in complete certainty. And everything you touch, it's like the Midas touch. Everything becomes golden.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. That makes a great deal of sense.
You're welcome. Anybody else? So whether it is that, again, it's a miracle that you're trying to create for yourself, or so-called miracle, there's no such thing as miracle. Because in that state of being, this is the essence, the true essence of the universe. You're looking at the substructures that operates everything that exists. When you're in that state, you are in the substructures of the universe. And when you're there, everything moves by intention and desires. And your prayer is an intention. Some of late, I've brought intention in there, but there are moments where I don't even bring intention. I'm just happy to be in that state where I'm not in fear anymore. Because I am finally at rest. And I feel supported. Can you feel energetically the shift that's happening in you just in the conversation itself already about this?
Yes.
That's the power of certainty. It's an endless field of possibilities. And all you have to bring in there is, if you have a request for yourself, for somebody else, for the planet, is for you. If enough of us were to gather together 144,000 in certainty and ask for the end of all wars, tomorrow they will end. I've been trying to train 144,000 to do exactly that, to herald humanity into the new earth, because most of a human being on the planet will still be, changing, intending and unintending 3 to 5 times per minute. Squirrel running around. I thought I had such mental discipline because I'm a Capricorn. I pride myself in being so together and all of that. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been taught a lesson in humility and showing me that I am not as fierce as I thought I was. And it's a good thing. It knocked down my ego a bit, but now I am tired of being afraid. And I'm going back to what I know works.
You know, Pierre, it seems as though those things that we assumed were true or had a concept of them being real are being challenged. That about ourselves inwardly, never suspecting that there was a fault line that ran through them, and it's all being exposed now, it seems to me.
Absolutely correct. And this is the teaching module of the adversary. The adversary is not, he plays a role, and the role is to reveal to us what we have camouflaged and we had hidden from ourselves. He's a teacher, but he's a tough and difficult teacher. I can tell you with all certainty that without him and the test that he took me to, I would not have the conviction I have right now. Because once you pass that test and you enter back in the certainty in that sense, not because what's going to come when we are going through the 3 days of darkness? It's going to create so much fear that it's going to require all the training and the difficulty and the test that we're going through right now, and having overcome and going back into certainty where we know that certainty will always be with us, and we just have to have the intention. It's going to take that kind of training. Imagine for a moment we're going through the 3 days of darkness where there is no sun for 3 days. What do you think people will begin to feel around the world, or that the magnetic north of the planet begins to reverse prior to that? And there are multiple north and south pole, and all the animals in the world that are using the North Pole as a guide because they can see the magnetic field, and there are multiple of them, and they are in disarray running everywhere. This is nothing to the fear that a lockdown created. So we, as the 144,000, need this training so that we can remember and hold fast in those 3 days in that certainty. Stand fast and do not move, do not waver. No more squirrel. Squirrel will not distract me and cause me to run around.
I just wanted to reference your point about being challenged to reveal what we're hiding from ourselves. But what's surprising to me is that what we're being challenged is to see what appears in our 3D senses as illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the deeper kind of reversal of the poles, so to speak, to to see what appears to be real and evident in our world and know that it's false, that it's an illusion.
Yes, because whatever fear that we have about losing our house, being sick, whatever it is, okay, financial issues, whatever it is that you're having the issue with, they're all illusion. What's real is when you go into that expanded state when you're connected with absolute certainty. In Buddhism, they call it dogma, the essence of being. That's what's real.
I like that. I like that. And that can create the state.
Any miraculous state, anything. It's a quantum field of endless possibilities.
Certainty.
The thing that came clear to me in conversation and in meditation and in conversation over the past couple of days is that absolute certainty is the key to all of the other divine names.
I see them.
And the other divine name they bring all kinds of virtue. They help remove addiction. They do all kinds of things. Each one of them has a different characteristic. Remove the fear of death, and I don't mean just physical death, but also when something is dying in your life and all of that, and it creates all these grief and all these problems, it helps remove all that. There are 3 letters that are connected to that are specific for that. But if you're uncertain and you're doubtful, it will not work. So if you are in absolute certainty, most of the time, the other divine name will operate automatically and intuitively and morphogenically without you even asking for them. Because that's the master name. In the Lord of the Ring, although there was an evil purpose, the evil one created a master ring to control all the others. This symbol is the key to operating all the others. Any other questions or comments? Whatever expanded state that you're in right now, just by the course of this conversation for the past hour, it's beginning to expand in you the awareness of what that certainty is. I can tell you one thing. If you lean into it, you will begin to understand what I mean by power, because there is a rest in it, and there is a knowing that whatever your burden is, it doesn't exist. Feel what I'm saying in your core. Whatever your burden is, the moment you connect to that certainty, it doesn't exist. Now, the problem is that you have to stop unintending it. And if you could remain in it for several days or several hours per day and weeks, this is why I'm asking for scanning several times a day. And if you can remain in that state and continue to maintain that state, you will not only benefit, but you will radiate it out from your being, and you will become a radiator and attractor to bring blessing to everyone and everything within your circle of influence. And this is the role that you and I, prior to coming to earth in the inner plane, agreed to fulfill. Remember the oath taken. Remember the promise made. Remember who you are. Because ultimately, what this certainty will do for you're going to benefit immediately from it. But what it will do also, it will turn you into a transducer of God's power and miracle. And God knows the planet needs this at this moment. And that will take you into the sadhana or the service that needs to happen to help the rest of humanity who is still so disempowered. What I'm talking is so abstract and so simple. It's like blinking your eyelid. Most people on the planet cannot get there. You know, you're all war dogs. You've been with me multiple lifetimes. We've been doing this, you know, we've been doing this for a while. None of you are new. We've been doing this for multiple lifetimes. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we have to really do it instead of thinking about it, instead of it being an abstraction. And what's catalyzing all of this for us? The adversary. It cannot remain abstract anymore. Because the bombardment and the loud, chaotic events that it's creating, the only antidote for them is absolute certainty.
Question, Pierre?
Yes.
Is there anything that can't be resolved in this way? Is there any karma that would prevent it?
No, no. There's the karma is connected to shame.
Oh,
When you're in certainty, the shame dissipate. This is why it may take you 2 weeks, 3 weeks to actually get into that connection. It took me 2 weeks to actually get into it because of the shame that I have, the undeservedness. I could feel it temporarily, but it was not completely embodied in me. So it will take you a minute of constantly scanning. And as you're scanning, after you finish the scanning, the issue that are related in your shame will show up for you in your mind, in your consciousness, and you will work it through as you keep focusing on the symbol. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not just the scanning for 10 minutes or half hour. That's enough. The rest of the day, it consequently, it's a cascade. It causes all kinds of things to happen emotionally, in your emotional body, in your intellect, and your shame and everything else begin to surface. And the way out is presented to you. You begin to have aha moment between the morning and the evening, and you realize, oh my God, this was erroneous. I was thinking about this. This is not correct. And the shame slowly gets removed.
Yes, I did not realize that all karma was shame. I thought karma, maybe I'm wrong here, was a correction.
It's a correction. It is a correction. In Hebrew, it's called tikkun. It's a correction. But it's a correction to us in the illusion of the 3D, believing something that is not correct. Okay? So let's say you kill somebody in a past life and you have to make a correction for it, right? But the reason you kill that person to begin with is because you perceive a threat or something that was incorrect, that was connected to undeservedness and your ego, a desire to receive for self and self alone. Now in the Kabbalah, it's very clear. You need to have a desire to receive, because that's the only way we can ground God and certainty in the earth. What you don't want is a desire to receive for self and self alone. The mistake that a lot of light workers are making is that they keep thinking that they don't need to have an ego at all. For all of the masters, including Master Jesus, to manifest miracle on earth, you have to have a desire to receive so that you can share, so you can be of service. You have to become an anchor, because the universe is two polarity: desire to receive, desire to give. Now, it's true that karma is tikkun, it's correction. So in the event that I described, where you realize in the past life, erroneously, you caused the death of somebody and so on and so forth, when you sincerely ask for forgiveness, and you realize that you were wrong and you were so delusional in believing that this person was a threat, and it was completely unwarranted, the moment you really desire, you make the real correction, the karma is gone. So the karma is connected to false belief, ego false belief. That cause you in past lives. Now, because it's tikkun, it's correction, karma is not just negative. There's also positive karma. If you can think of it as a bank account in the cosmos, you can make withdraw or deposit. There can be plus and negative as well. If it's a negative karma, it's because you did something wrong and you have to correct something. But what I'm saying is that when you're focusing on these letters, on certainty, all of that will become clear to you in the process of the connection. After the connection is done, not while it's happening, but after it's done throughout the day. If you monitor your consciousness, you're going to realize certain things, ideas are coming to your mind that will help unravel all the blockages that are blocking you for getting in complete certainty, including the karma. It will accelerate the correction.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, karma in Sanskrit, it actually means to do or to make. It's not a passive state of being a victim. It's an active state. So all of us should always work on withdrawing from the universal bank the positive karma that we have to create blessings for us, and erasing the debit and the negative karma that we have, so that we can turn it into positive. And why there is negative karma? Shame. We think we're undeserving. We think we're I have to stay in this situation because I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not, or if I'm attacking, it's because, and I'm trying to destroy my neighbor, it's because I want their land and I want what they have. When in fact, what you want, you're only attacking when you lose control. If you're attacking, it's because you think you lost control and you're attempting at getting the control back. And that's coming from desire to receive from self and self alone. No one can control anything. In the blessed field, we exist as an immense, infinite murmuration of starling. Everybody is in perfect lockstep with each other in complete bliss. And the endless field will fulfill and completely satisfy or desires or needs, and everyone will exist in harmony with each other. Any other questions or comments? What has been your experience so far, if you don't mind me asking, with using the certainty divining? I would love to hear from you before we go into a break, if you can.
I'm not sure what you're asking. What has been our experience?
Yes.
Oh.
Does any of the thing I've described to you so far, are you anywhere close, or is it a different way you're experiencing it? When you focus on the symbols, what are you feeling energetically?
I'm not sure that this was answering your question, but and maybe this sounds flippant, but it isn't intended to be. When I see the symbol of each letter, I see a symbolic, and I don't know what the letter means, but I see a symbolic meaning behind each letter, a different meaning in each letter. The ayin, the first letter,
Yeah.
looks like it has a crown on it. So I see that as le roi, the God that is the power of the universe. And the second letter I see as God reaching down to us to provide us what we need. And then we, the third letter, feeling in our own more limited capacity the benefit of that gift. I don't know whether it just fills me with that intention, I guess, as well as the story that I put to it.
Mm.
It's a gift that I feel comes to me from God.
Beautiful. It is certainly the meaning that you have at this moment, but that meaning will evolve as you keep staring at it. It's beautiful, but it will change, it will transform, it will go deeper.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because it's a God concept, and God concept are evolutionary.
God is a word. We can't put a word to the I don't even know how to describe what you know what I mean.
Yes.
Use a word because it's a familiar one.
Yes.
But not a long bearded man sitting on a throne in heaven.
Correct.
It is the blessed field. It is the infinite capacity for for all. So it's hard to put a word to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do a closing meditation. 5 minutes, okay? Before we get started with the meditation, I want to go back to what Janice had said before about her comments about the shapes and everything else. I want you to now begin to focus, all of you, not just on the shape themselves, but on the feeling that each shape is trying to communicate to you. Not just the story and the shape themselves, that's the initial part. Like, I'm a graphic person, that one looks like a Y, and that one looks like a comma that's kind of funny. That one looks like, that kind of, I'm not trying to relate it. But after a while, you go beyond that, you look through the symbol and you try to think of any emotions and feelings that are behind the symbols. And then you will begin to step into the actual energy and power of certainty. Okay? All right, let's get started. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears. What kind of information? Insights, wisdom, and knowing that that your consciousness is trying to communicate to you. Become aware of any fears, challenges, or struggles created by the adversary. As a teaching module. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender this test into the blessed field. I release all attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless possibilities. I release all attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless possibilities. I release all attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless possibilities. Now gaze at the symbol for certainty. From right to left. Not just at the shape and what they remind you of, but are there any feelings, sensations, expansions that they're creating for you? in the certainty of God. I release my intention and I banish all fears, all doubts, all insecurities and uncertainties. For I am one with the vast continents and all the powers and blessings and grace of infinity times infinity. It is done. May the power of certainty that radiates from, that is initiated from the blessed field and infinity times infinity, pass through me and be shared by radiation, attraction, and generosity to everyone in my circle of influence. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre. What a blessing. Thank you for introducing these letters. It feels still like something so holy, as though it, I am touched by God by it, by looking at it.
And you did, and you are. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're welcome. Any other comments before we close? I want to thank you all for listening to me and for participating in the class tonight. And Janice, thank you for your comments. And if you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for the support. For those of you on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Love you.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Love you all.